listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
All right, so we're about to start, is it year 3 of this pandemic now?
Who knows?
I mean, year 672.
Yeah, and in March, right? Well,
yeah, in March it'll be entering year 3.
Entering year 3. And I'm just going to tell you right now, and if I've said it before, I apologize, but I am fresh out of anecdotes. I've done nothing. I continue to do nothing. I have nothing to share.
So your anecdote to start off is that you don't have any anecdotes?
I have no anecdotes. I have nothing, no interesting meals, conversations, adventures. I don't have anything. I'm hoping somebody does. Do either of you?
I mean, like, all of my quote-unquote adventures are, like, medical updates, which is, like...
That's where we're at.
Honestly, counts as an anecdote going into the year 3 of the pandemic for sure, I guess. Like, on the sad side, my sister has COVID, and I don't like that. And then, just by extension, like, everyone's sort of isolating. We're waiting to find out if my grandma has it, which I don't want. Luckily, she's been with us for like the last week, so hopefully there's like very minimal overlap between grandma and Jen. But grandma is coughing, her breathing's bad, her runny nose.
Oh, so those are all of the symptoms.
All pretty classic symptoms, but also the symptoms of an asthmatic with allergies, which is also what she is. So,
6
we'll
of
see.
one, half dozen of the other. You never know, right?
Yeah. I mean, Carlos and I took the rapid tests, but at the testing site, which was very smooth, by the way, like a drive-through testing site, was very smooth and no lineup at all. They decided that because grandma was, 88, and even though she's been she's like had her booster and been triple vaxxed or whatever, they wanted to do like the actual like more formal swab test. And so you have to wait 24 to 48 hours for the results of that. And they call you if you're positive, but if you don't hear from anyone, you're negative. Which I don't love that as a strategy for communication about public health emergencies. You kind of want to hear yes or no. And I know that maybe that's like impractical. That's a big stress to the system, I suppose. But, what if in our telecommunication world, a phone call doesn't get made, or like a phone call doesn't go through, or a text doesn't come through, or like, she doesn't have voicemail set up. Like there's so many things that could go potentially wrong. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's still no medicine. Like you would go to the hospital if you had a respiratory issue anyway, right? So.
Yeah. Like there's, if she got way worse, we would take her to the hospital no matter
regardless
what.
of whether or not. Yeah. So
exactly.
That's the kind of problem with this whole thing, is because it's not like you're missing out on medication or there's something they can do for you. There's nothing they can do for you except tell you to isolate.
They can give you if breathing is an issue, they can give you like those, salbutamol and stuff like that.
But then you would go to the doctor for that, right? Already.
Yeah, and because she's an asthmatic, she already has those prescriptions. If it gets really bad for people when they get like lung infections, they can go in and get like kind of like an ultra blast dose, which is less fun than it sounds, but it does it does sort of help people.
It sounds like a brand cereal slogan on the front of the box.
Yeah,
I wonder why that isn't a cereal yet. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Ultra Blast Dose. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ultra Blast maybe though.
Ultra
like,
Blast.
Ultra blast, blast,
Yeah.
blast. Nothing will be left in your colon.
Well, I was just gonna say it's like the ultimate colon cleanser cereal. It's just like so good.
It's all gone.
I mean-
gone.
It certainly feels like we know more and more people that have COVID
Oh yeah, a lot
with this
more.
wave. Yeah.
Tons more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is wave 95, 96. Where are we at?
I mean, again, like what do numbers?
I barely
even
know
mean?
what year it is. I couldn't tell you what wave we're in.
Yeah.
No.
The only reason.
Someone was making a joke saying that 2020 was the freshman year for COVID.
Of course. Of course. I mean, yeah, the only reason I even like vaguely have an understanding that it's 2022 is just because of all the, 22 jokes again. And then also someone, oh my God, wait, was it us talking about? No, the other day someone was saying like, so what do you call it? Do you call it, because apparently they had heard it referred to as 22 instead of 2022 because like I guess that's too long, so people have just been calling it like 22, but like I don't know, man, like what
I said 2021. Why would I not say 2022?
well, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless you really want to go with like 2 squared or something, like I guess I don't know, that's probably an option that people are doing too, but
I can't get any lazier. Like that just is, I mean, now I'm just like, it's a year. I don't
you're just like, look, I've been in sweatpants for 2 years, I cannot just relax myself around these numerals.
I feel like I remember 2020 better than 2021. 2021 seems to be the bigger blur.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason I'm super aware it's 2022 is because I'm a figure skating fan and all the competitions are ratcheting up for the Olympics. And so like all the national championships have been happening in the last couple of weeks, and like mid competition, like in the US championships, like a couple people had to withdraw because they had COVID, and yeah, it's just been something else.
Can you like, honestly, like I know that there have been multiple stages of COVID at this point and variants and stuff, but with like the way that Omicron is just like everywhere.
Do you remember the day? I can remember the day where I was when I read Omicron.
But like I can't imagine, honestly, just being like, yeah, we should definitely hold a large scale
Sporting
event that requires international travel.
I know. I'm curious as to what's going to happen. I guess Beijing is happening. I don't know. It seemed like I would totally believe it if they decided to cancel it as well, because it's crazy.
But
it's just like, it's so hard because, these athletes have been training for, this opportunity for much of their lives. And they're just, I don't know. It's hard. It's difficult.
I get it. There's like still so many people dying. Like, I don't know
Hospital stays are up. ICU is up. I know. Yeah. And you can't walk past a group of people without hearing a snippet of such and such is vaxxed, or, or so-and-so got this, or, can't do this, can't, it just, so to take it full circle, all I have to talk about.
Anecdotes.
I have no anecdotes.
I mean, it's one of the reasons that like it has felt so weird with with like what we're going to talk about this week for this TV show to be happening right now. I know it was very popular early on in the pandemic that like Contagion was like a record views on, I know Outbreak was like the #1 whatever streamed something or other. Like I get it to a certain extent when this pandemic in the early stages We didn't know how bad it was going to get, nor did we think we'd necessarily be here 2 years later, going on potentially into 3 years later. So that's why, like, man, what a doozy of a show to talk about with you guys right now.
I have to admit that I cursed your name a little bit at some parts while I was watching the first 2 episodes of the show because you picked it. And I was like,
wait, did I pick it really? Like I didn't
pick it.
I didn't pick it.
Oh, I guess I did pick it. I thought you guys were already watching it. No?
No.
Oh, well, hey, look what I did. Okay, well, I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
I think I am. I mean...
and you're listening to Pop This, and we're talking about Station 11, the series that I inflicted on my 2 lovely co-hosts. But it's...
Much like an Omicron, you have inflicted us with Station
honestly,
11.
Like, Station 11. But, like... I mean, it's on so many people's, like, best of the year lists and stuff like that, nominated for a bunch of awards.
It's
like,
a reasonable thing to pick. It really is.
And I mean, we're only going to talk about the first 2 episodes, but, like, they are stunning.
They are.
Yes.
Distressing as hell.
Yes.
Stunning.
But I mean, I guess that's what makes, a good piece of television is that it makes you feel all kinds of things. It's not just like a happy show.
I'm trying to remember if I read the book during the pandemic or not. I think I read it before.
I thought you were reading it during the beginning. I thought you were reading it in the beginning part of the pandemic because I remember you reading Station 11.
Yeah.
At some point, and I thought that you were like, this is very weird to be reading this.
Oh,
while this is happening.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
But maybe I'm making that up. I don't know.
No, it feels like it's a long time ago I read the book, but then as you pointed out, we're in almost year 3 of this pandemic, so that's highly reasonable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. All right, so just a little background. Station 11 is an American post-apocalyptic science fiction miniseries that's strangely relevant, created by Patrick Somerville based on the acclaimed 2014 novel of the same name by Emily St. John Mandel. The miniseries premiered on HBO Max on December 16th, 2021.
I'll read the synopsis. Created by Patrick Somerville with a premiere directed by Hiro Murai, Station 11 opens in Chicago on the eve of a world-destroying pandemic. Jeevan is at a production of King Lear when he realizes that the lead actor, a star named Arthur Leander, is having a heart attack. He's the first one to rush to the stage to try and save the actor's life, which thrusts him into an unusual role. The tragic event forces Jeevan into becoming the guardian of Arthur's child co-star, Kirsten, because her regular wrangler is occupied. Jeevan agrees to talk to Kirsten. I'm having problems reading today. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Jeevan agrees to walk Kirsten home, and then the world literally collapses.
Yeah, it sure does.
What a wild time. Like, so I have not read the book. Lisa, you've read the book.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
AG, did you read the book?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So just like going into like first, like Lisa, what were your impressions of the book?
Oh, I really loved the book. A lot. I thought it was one of the best books I've ever read, I have to say. Yeah.
Wow.
Honestly, I do. I think
I've heard that a lot, actually.
Really? Yeah. I thought it was
from many people
extraordinarily good. And yeah, and I'll say that these first 2 episodes, actually I ended up watching 4. But they've been pretty remarkable. Quite different from the book, but I'm glad for that because I don't really think you need to be so literal.
What's different?
The what some of the characters are doing, some of the timelines are a little bit different. So yeah, I'd say it's quite different, but also feeling wise and tone wise, it's quite right.
But I heard it's also like it's in the book. It's set in Toronto. It starts in Toronto.
Yes.
And in the TV series, it starts in Chicago.
Yeah. At the beginning is exactly the same as the book, with the King Lear and all of those things. And so, but it's, for some reason now seems harder than I think at the beginning when I was reading it, I didn't know things would go on this long. I think maybe that's the issue right now. And to watch the miniseries is to remind myself of the fact that it didn't turn out well.
Well, I mean, not quite as bad as sort of the depiction of the flu in like the type of flu they have in this story, which kills 99% of the population.
Yeah, exactly. It does that in the book too, but for some reason I felt more hopeful when I read it, and now
It's weird how like living through your own pandemic will make you feel a tiny bit less hopeful. Yeah.
The daily things are, we might have flattened out, and the high voice talk of, and so yeah.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, I will say, like, watching I watched the first 2 episodes the same day my sister tested positive for COVID, and that felt a little too real. Because it really snapped me back to the first 8 weeks of COVID, when I really think that I lived in absolute terror daily. And which isn't to say that there's, that necessarily this is a new normal, or that like I've acclimatized. Maybe I've just dissociated to a certain extent. But I definitely think like the first 8 weeks, I was really kind of like very spirally and very panicked and very worried. And in part, like it was COVID itself, but it was also just like the state of the world and not knowing how quickly things might devolve. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't sure about the human breakdown.
That's what makes this story so fascinating and so different from other post-apocalyptic shows I've seen or stories I've read, is that, like, the story is not just, like, about a collapse of civilization and all of a sudden everything is, like, Mad Max or something. It's this, like, kind of, like, when they flash to what the future looks like in the story, it's just been, like, a slow decay. And, in fact, like, humans kind of have reverted back to like horseback riding and don't have any technology, and like no one knows what an iPhone is, and like it's just this completely different picture of what a post-apocalyptic world looks like. I found that very fascinating.
Scary Mad Max style murders and stuff, but it has at least I guess what people have focused on is her belief in beauty and art, the author.
But also, like, there's a lot of the scenes that I've been seeing, again, only 2 episodes in, and I haven't read the book, is that there's a lushness. So it's like the planet reclaiming and nature reclaiming some of the stuff that humans took from it, almost. Like when we get far into the future and we see things like a lot of new plant life, a lot of new vegetation, a lot of sort of lushness is happening amongst the decay. So it's as if like the man-made world is crumbling, but like, nature finds a way, as our favorite Jurassic Park slogan says, And so that's been kind of interesting to sort of just like foreground as like maybe one of the ways that you keep hope alive. But that's actually kind of one of the things that like I know that the pandemic has definitely made very clear the inequities for so many different people, and class system and the capitalism and all the failures and whatnot. But it also, the thing weirdly that sort of really gave me it kind of took me out of my spiral early on was just the ways that I saw like really legitimately a lot of different people trying to help each other. Like it was sort of like
they've obviously made it in the time of the pandemic, and they know that people are going to have, the world at large has experience now with a worldwide flu. And like throughout the show, you kind of see little things that you can totally identify with, but it's like, you know, not as extreme as it is in the story. Like, you know, at the beginning where they go to the grocery store and buy $10,000 worth of groceries and try to cart it all up to the apartment, and you know, like they are wearing masks in some scenes. And then the idea, like when they're in a hotel, some characters are in a hotel and they get like a package of like how to seal your room off, and it's like, you know, like none of us have ever had to do that before, but we inherently understand, you know, like when they're duct taping the vents in their room, like why they're doing it, and you know, like how that's going to work. And so I just find it fascinating that like it's so different, like watching this now than it would have been if we had seen this television show like pre 2020. It would have just been like a kind of like, you know, theoretical thing. Like, what would you do if this happened? But now it's kind of like we have a somewhat of an understanding of like what this could be. And this is like an extreme version of it. And so, yeah, you can like sort of really relate to what the characters are doing.
The my book club, the last book we did before the pandemic started, so was Severance by Ling Ma. Has anyone read that?
No, I haven't read it.
No.
That's another story about I could go ahead and just sort of recommend this, but I'm sure I did before. So it follows Candace Chen, an unfulfilled Bible product coordinator, before and after an incurable infection slowly obliterates global civilization.
Ugh.
So, yeah, it's very similar. And we just finished reading it and talking about it. And it was in February. And
wow.
And so all of us were phoning each other after going, can you believe we just read that book? And it felt... it's very similar. It's very similar to this one. Oh, only it's more satirical. If you can believe that, it's satirical. So I'm recommending Severance. If for some reason you didn't get enough pandemic stuff, go ahead and try Severance.
Well, I mean, like that's a good question. Like, how do we feel about watching material about the pandemic during the pandemic? Like, has this been hard to watch for you?
Yeah.
I will say, like, when I through the first episode, I was like, I'm gonna watch these too, and even though it's great, I don't know that I can do this right now. Like, I might need to put this aside for now. And honestly, I was so grateful when they started talking about a stupid prophecy. I was just like, oh, thank God. Okay. I have an exit ramp into this being something that's not real for me. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, okay, I can slot enough of this into a space that is fiction and not like creepy meta fiction, you know?
Yeah, I'll be honest and say after I watched the first 4 episodes, I was back to Netflix and a good murderous Danish mystery, and I felt that more comforting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember if it was the first. I guess it was the second episode, but when the little girl Kirsten gets the text about her parents, and
oh God,
from the hospital, and it's just like that. It basically says they're dead. Don't come here. To me, that was just like the point at which I was almost like, I can't continue watching this. It's too devastating. It's too like real to, you know, like what some people have had to go through.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's the thing. It feels very devastating on a lot of levels. I think that what I like so much about it, because of darkness, and I do like darkness, is that it feels very real. So it feels like there's a place in which I can sort of like process a few things that you know, I'm not like ready to process everything, but like process a few things here and there. But also because it jumps around in time so much, it gives you a chance to sort of get attached to at least a few characters who you're like, oh, well, they don't die. That's nice. It gives you a tiny bit of hope.
Yeah.
It also really, because right now who we've met is this like kind of, you know, weird little wonderful artsy band of composers, artists, and traveling, you know, creative types. Like, I mean, you guys, you know that I thought I had to learn to make soap in order to not be just eaten immediately in a post-apocalyptic society.
Which I will say for the umpteenth time, I'm not sure soap's gonna be your thing.
I know, and I agree.
It requires like careful measurement and chemistry.
I know, and you know that I hate both the careful measurement and chemistry. But this show gives me some minor hope. I could stage crew. I could like, I'm bossy and I'm good at leading people sometimes. I could like direct a play. Like, I don't know that I would direct exclusively Shakespeare, but you know, I've seen that play wherein like it's 3 different seasons or 3 different iterations of a post-apocalyptic future where it's only The Simpsons survives. I sat through that for 3 hours. I could do it.
I could easily recount Seinfeld episodes for everybody for years to come. I mean, I could do them all. I could do Friends. I could, I don't understand why we have to be Shakespeare, right?
So, yeah, I guess we just do like
the touring Seinfeld recreation crew.
I could do Scandal. I could do Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
There are a few different
We
shows
could do
I
Mean
for sure do.
Girls, we could do a movie version of some things. I mean, you just have to find the right audience, and not everyone's into Shakespeare.
So what are you saying? Like we'd reconstruct Mean Girls from like the script from memory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And then we would take that on the road.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We wouldn't be in a horse-drawn buggy, though. We would find some kind of a little more palatial circumstances.
You know what? I've always thought that humanity returning to horse-drawn things is not a bad way to address like environmental concerns.
You'd have to just lower your expectations on where you can go and what you can do in a day. That's and I've already done that. So you're right.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think like, it's interesting to me that like I've always imagined that in a post-apocalyptic future that like hip hop would have a much larger space because it's such a great form of storytelling and it's so much catchier and there's musicality to it and rhythm. We haven't seen what the musicians are really doing yet, except for the orchestra and Lori Petty.
They're going to be a drum
composer.
circle. What are you talking about?
Well, there's going to be drum and music and stuff, but I haven't, I'm excited to see, hopefully, as the series progresses, that like we are seeing, how the different types of music and different genres of music have lived on. That Shakespeare I get for both from the book's standpoint and from the TV series standpoint, since certainly there's no copyright infringement, right? Like they can continue to use these texts in perpetuity and sort of like twist and revamp, and you don't owe anyone any money for it. And so that like makes a lot of sense to me. But I wonder if that's actually like, in the real world where copyright infringement is not a suable thing necessarily, if civilization has collapsed, would it really still be Shakespeare? I don't know. I don't think so. Like a few people for sure, but just not everyone.
Yeah, we just have to make sure you find a different crew. Like I'd probably stop off in one of those little towns or whatever. I think that would probably be more likely something that I would do.
Yeah, it's just like so wild to me that like Kirsten as a folk hero for her like stunning Romeo and Juliet is like just year by year the kids are just like, let me, this 6-year-old's like, I remember last year and Kirsten was an amazing, I just like a cute idea, but
to be fair, isn't that actually sort of a full circle thing? Because isn't that what happened with Shakespeare? Wasn't Shakespeare seen by the masses and memorized?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a 500-year-old circle for sure, and it's a full circle for Kirsten too, since she's like this 8-year-old who's abandoned by everyone because the world dies, and she had been like a trained Shakespearean actor. Like I get it, I get it. I just think sometimes the world in which we imagine, even in post-apocalyptic scenarios, is still held back by copyright infringement.
I thought you were going to use the P word and say it's a bit pretentious, Like, why would it be Shakespeare? Like, definitely, where's the crew that's just going around of the idiots? Because that's what I want to find. Just like,
there's definitely a crew of like jackass performers who are just like, I stapled my testicles to my forehead.
And I found some firecrackers. We're letting them off tonight. I'd be like, I'll be there. I mean, where are my people at? If I have to hear that woman compose another thing on a piano, I mean, it'll be too soon, Like,
wow,
there's gotta be that group.
Okay, so I gotta admit, I'm a big Lori Petty fan.
Me too.
I'm really excited to see her in that role. But also, did you catch the great Deborah Cox, Canada's beautiful soul queen, is in Station 11? And so far, she really hasn't had many lines, but she's in the entire series. And so I hope that she has some cool stuff to do, because she's an incredible voice, but she's also like an excellent actor and so talented. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, maybe they'll decide to do the Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann version, and then we can get a lot more music.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I would honestly... I endorse that.
Yeah, that'd be you. Can we zhuzh this up a bit, people?
Yes, I want to zhuzh it all up. I can't help it. I just think.
No, I think that's important. I mean, it gets to be a little bit earthy. Earthy is my least favorite thing, I gotta say.
Well, it also just like from every angle, it like I get it, and I'm not like disavowing Shakespeare. I'm really interested in Shakespeare, and I think it's super interesting language, and I just think that there's so much more happening in the world, and there's so many like exciting writers of even the last 100 years.
You want them to tour Death of a Salesman, or
no? I want to see Raisin in the Sun. Damn it! I think that's. I want Tina the musical.
If you guys can't do Wicked, I'm not coming. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Would it kill you to do a little Broadway? I mean, I get what we're doing here, but I'm just saying that a lot of us have memorized Wicked and Hamilton and Jesus Christ Superstar, and we can do this.
Yeah, I guess Hamilton's not happening at this point. Also, can I just say, though, they could do The Lion King, which is basically Hamlet.
There you go.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I guess it's just highly dependent on which thespians survive this flu pandemic.
Oh my God.
Apparently the Shakespeare's ones did.
Oh no, the Shakespeareans have the heads up. But, well, except the one who, I guess, had a heart attack and died right away. Yeah. Because
that's one way out.
Leander goes right away. And I was really grateful to understand that we're going to jump around in time a lot, because I love that actor so much. I've loved him since Y Tu Mamá También.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Oh my God, he's just so wonderful and so excellent. And I will be a little bit heartbroken if we don't get to spend a bit more time with him.
We do. He's all through the whole book. So.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Thank God. Yeah. Also, I love some of the performances. I obviously really love the kid version of Kirsten, as well as the grown-up.
That kid is stunning.
That kid is amazing.
Yeah.
The grown-up version of Kirsten, also excellent.
From Vancouver.
Is cool. But also, can we just talk about Jeevan?
Yeah.
Himesh Patel is amazing. I love him so much, and I hope he's so much in the rest of the.
He does that
series.
moment on stage where he kind of alerts people to the fact that the actor is having a heart attack, and then goes on stage and is like, "I'm not a doctor. I can't do anything." That's an amazing moment.
He has so many great moments, like that even though it's obviously like it's a sort of difficult situation. The character has a lot to do. They're having a panic attack. They also have to like play really well opposite an 8-year-old and never seem like creepy and like still be helpful, but always like be like reluctantly helpful. And yet like, that hero journey for him is so fantastic, but he's also so funny. And like his facial expressions, my God, I love him so much.
Agreed with you. I think he's so good, so solid, so fun and smart.
But yeah, and even though that storyline is like hits the closest to home because it's like in our present times, it's the one I want to watch the most. Like young Kirsten and Jeevan.
Yeah. They just play really well together too, like they're just really in it, and I just think it's exquisite. And that's why I'm going to like keep going back to it. Like, even though this is a very hard show for me to watch personally, and I know it is for a lot of people, like it is compelling and the performances are amazing. And, I don't care about a prophecy, but like, I'm excited to see what else happens.
I'm just trying to who the actor that plays Jeevan. I've seen him in something else. What is it this year? Does anyone know what I'm trying to remember? Oh, yesterday.
Oh, okay. I never watched it, so
I did see yesterday. Okay. There we go. All right. I feel a lot better now. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. I'm the only person that saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not recommending that either. So. Yeah.
I like it.
If you ever wondered what a world would be like without the Beatles, no one's ever wondered that. No one. The movie is based on a premise that has never actually been uttered.
This makes me really happy.
Well, anything is going to make you happier than talking about a post-apocalyptic landscape with 99% of the people dead.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily gravitate usually towards post-apocalyptic stuff. I've watched some stuff, I'm sure, but is it like a? I mean, I did watch The Last Man,
the TV series,
and the TV series, with Will Forte, and I really actually quite enjoyed it. The first season, hard to get through because his character is the worst. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy sort of anti-heroes, but his character sort of often continues to be the worst, but I very much enjoy him as an actor, and the supporting cast was quite excellent. Mm-hmm. But
did any of you watch The Walking Dead?
I only made it through
one season.
Yeah.
I made it through one season too, and I was just like, this is very violent and really not fun.
I tend to like zombie movies a bit more, which is that technically, I don't know, Walking Dead, is that post-apocalyptic? I guess it is because it's been a big...
I think because it was ravaged by so many people are dead. I think that's post-apocalyptic for sure.
So 28 Days Later, is that a zombie movie? Is that a post-apocalyptic movie? Or is it just a horror movie?
Good question. Because, I do like zombies sometimes. I like Shaun of the Dead and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But those are technically kind of post-apocalyptic because a giant fever or whatever flu comes out. Like in 28 Days Later, it's a experiment on animals, right? And they get out.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Have either of you seen Snowpiercer?
Yes.
I saw the film. I didn't watch the TV show.
Yeah.
There's a
I've seen the
TV
movie.
show too.
Yeah, I haven't watched
with
that.
Jennifer Connelly, and I watched it at first, but then it's just like I don't know, as a TV show, I just can't keep returning to it episode after episode because it's like such a dark and scary premise, and it just returning to the train week after week after
Which
week.
in the movie is okay. I can't imagine how much more. I got bored of seeing the train in the movie. Like, you know.
Well, they're just on it forever. That's the point.
Yeah, so I have no interest. I don't.
Yeah.
At least in the Train to Busan, they get off the train, so.
Oh, and I guess I do watch Westworld, but I haven't thought of that as post-apocalyptic yet, but maybe, is it? Maybe?
I've watched all the Mad Max movies.
I've only watched Furiosa.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like watching post-apocalyptic movies, but Mad Max is like so much in the culture. Like when we grew up, like the idea of Thunderdome and stuff, and
California
like
Love, that's where it is. Yeah,
the idea, like Tina Turner's character and everything. It's just like if you grew up in the like at a certain point in the 80s, it was like impossible not to know like the cultural references of like Mad Max.
Yeah, and the cars
And that's what that's what's like honestly shaped, like the idea that, probably a certain generation has of what that a post-apocalyptic future looks like is based around Mad Max.
Yeah, around cars and gasoline
lack of gas.
Yeah, exactly.
What about The Road? I never read it or watched the film.
Oh, I watched that film. Oh my God, it's so depressing. Don't.
That's what I've heard. It's like really bleak, right?
Oh, bleak doesn't even. They need a new level of bleak, a new word. Oh my God, no, I'm not going to recommend that.
Yeah.
As much as I love Viggo Mortensen too, as I've mentioned probably on this podcast.
Sure, yeah.
Just a few times.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, we've never said, "Oh, your husband Viggo," but like, you know, it's
That's because Mads Mikkelsen gets upset. So
my God, I really so dreamy.
Mads too, yeah.
So dreamy.
So dreamy. Yeah.
There are a lot of anyway, that's never mind. Oh, that's besides the point.
No, that was a much nicer thought than we've had so far during the podcast. So let's just conjure Mads up in our mind just for another second. And okay, continue.
And yeah, have I cut my face on his cheekbones? Sure. Now let's begin again.
Yeah.
I just I think one of the things that so far I'm really liking about Station 11 is that and this is sort of something that is referred to in one of the write-ups you found for us, AG, is episodes don't dwell on death, they value life. And I think that is a really, I don't know, that's a really lovely idea. And I myself kind of, it's not about like, I understand that positivity is a death cult. Like that's not my thing. It's more so just like, I want to grip onto things that are like as hopeful as possible because that's good for me, like, I think death is important and honoring death is important, et cetera. But I also think like, I know what it is to keep living, and what it is to keep living is to like keep loving things and being a part of things and being part of community and stuff. And so I like to see the community that has formed in Station 11 and how, at least so far, how people come together, band together. Even when little Kirsten meets composer lady and they find each other, and you sort of then see how Kirsten has grown up and she's sort of part of, one of the leaders of this like sort of large group of people, and how they sort of, it's messy. Like all the interrelationships seem to be kind of messy. Everyone's had relationships with other people, and who's sharing your tent tonight I loved hearing that question. I love this idea of this like sort of consent-based community that gets a little tiny bit messy, but they're also still just living, lives that have, love and hope and something to look forward to in them. And so that I just really liked seeing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole survival is insufficient kind of motto. This is like this recurring theme through all the episodes that I've seen. And I mean, it is comforting to see like not a lot of shows like this show you that people who it's not, this world is not just about surviving. You know what I mean? It's not about like you can't just, people aren't just going to be sitting around like trying to figure out how to feed and shelter themselves every day and have that kind of existence. There's going to be people that create art, because it's just not enough to be like, I've got to grow a bunch of potatoes and find a tent to sleep in tonight. It's not enough that's not like enough to be human. Like you have to have something that nurtures your soul as well.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to sort of think about that also in sort of like our relationships to community too, right? Like, and this is where we come into sort of like the broader questions of like the ethics of living and like, ethical care practices and things that matter, like, and the ethics of care, as it were, like, is just there's a reason that like shelter and food and, these very sort of basic things should be basic human rights, because if you're just constantly in scarcity and constantly in survival mode, that really reframes your brain in a very, very harsh way. Like that's not really living, that is surviving. And that's just like such a different place from which you make decisions, and you really do have to have joy. Like joy has to be part of the equation. But like we make it very hard for people who, are experiencing difficulties with access to sort of the basics of human necessity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, it's fascinating to think about, like, in our pandemic right now, we're already seeing all these, what can happen with, supply chain issues and things like that. And, if 99% of humanity dies, like, of course, there's going to be no one to make technology happen, and it's going to be like, some animals survive, and, like people have to revert back to this life where everything's done by hand and everything, you can't be reliant on like technology for anything.
Yeah. And I mean, the other part of that, as well, is just like we rely on the labor of people. Mm-hmm. Like, it's pretty critical that we then care for those people. Because that's, it's just, if we don't, then we sort of, we not only like lose our humanity, but like we see that like, everything else sort of ceases to work. Like no one is expendable, and the people who we like sort of constantly refer to as sort of like being a sort of an unskilled labor force are the ones who are the most important. Mm-hmm. I think about this a lot in relation to like, at least what I do. I'm just like, look, I write about music, and that's great. And it's, I'm thrilled about it, and I'm honored for it. And like, I really do think it is a privilege, and I know it's a privilege. But like in the long and short of it, my job is not like more important at all than, getting groceries into people's hands, or getting like food literally made and grown into places where we can then buy it. So, just thinking about like
absolutely.
More of like a lateral approach to living as opposed to a hierarchy of
office jobs are so not essential.
Oh my God.
No, the office building will be inessential. The whole thing.
Truly.
Yeah. No,
Truly.
exactly. I'm just hoping my skill at making chicken puttanesca will carry me through, but we'll see. We'll see how that how I could brag
Who
to
knows?
that
Maybe
as I come
traveling
across.
traveling bands of thespians will come from far and wide to eat your chicken puttanesca.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm banking everything I have on that. That's the only skill.
Maybe that's what your small village will be. It's just
We will
like
be the
chicken
village of Puttanesca.
puttanesca. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a derogatory term for a dish, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
It means like sex workers' food because.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of these dishes that it's just made. The reason why people make it is it's called a pantry dish, that you've always got the stuff around. So that's where it came from. So just pointing that out now. So it does have there's a flavor to it that I might be able to exploit.
That is a flavor, and obviously, long live the sex workers. So
yeah.
they're gonna have jobs a lot longer than I will. Now this is an unusual segue, but like, do you think that you'll continue to watch this show?
I'll take a bit of a break and decide certain days that I think I can do it.
Yeah, I think like my mind wants to keep watching the series, but when I actually turn on the TV, I'm like, no, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to pick up the rest of it.
You're like, Station 11, Frasier repeat.
Yeah.
I mean, I will finish it. And I'm much more likely to finish it than I ever am apparently to go back to Bridgerton. Like, I still haven't finished Bridgerton, or The Queen's Gambit actually.
However,
What about
I have
that?
kept up on and just like that.
Oh, so I have not. So don't.
Oh, I have.
Don't let me. No, I'm not there yet. So let's not
Okay.
talk about it quite yet. But I
Okay.
probably will be caught up by next week.
Okay.
I got
But wait.
sidetracked by something else. So but I'll tell you that in my recommendations.
Speaking of that, what's that Katherine Heigl show that we watched?
Firefly
not so
Lane?
long ago? Yeah, one of you said you were going to keep watching that. I think it was AW.
Yeah, it wasn't
I
me.
said I was going to keep watching it. And I have not, but I am going to watch it all before season 2 because they are making a season 2. That damn thing got renewed. Can you believe that?
No, I can't believe you said you were going to watch more. So
I know. And I am going to because
because you're
I
a
just will.
completist.
I am a completist and I will finish it before season 2. So, like at some
You heard
point.
it here, folks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In case you need.
Yeah, you heard it here. Just in case you needed to know that. But does Station 11 pop?
Oh yeah, pop.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
much.
1,000%.
Yeah. And
It's
and
so
I'd
good.
recommend the book too, which, as it turns out, are going to be two very different things. So definitely read the book.
That's great. Okay. I will. Yeah, I don't know exactly when I'm going to return to Station 11. Probably sooner rather than later. I also hear, just as a sneak peek ahead, since we're supposed to be doing Yellow Jackets, the first 2 episodes of Yellow Jackets next week, I also hear it's a post-apocalyptic kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And what fun times ahead.
Another uplifting week of television for us.
And just like that, they watched another post-apocalyptic show.
We love to leave our show on something we recommend. Lisa, you've already recommended your thing?
Sure, I'll say Severance. I think I may have recommended it before, but it definitely, if you just haven't got enough post-apocalyptic in your life, and Station 11, the book, and the TV show aren't enough, do think up or pick up Severance by Ling Ma. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Cool. Thank you. AG, what about you?
I'm going to recommend something that will sort of maybe lift your spirits a little bit, but a friend of the podcast, Joelle Caballu, she's the director of the short called Koto, The Last Service. And it's about a friend of ours, Kenji Maeda. His family ran a Japanese restaurant in Campbell River for 39 years and decided to close it. And they went up and filmed the sort of final days of this restaurant.
Oh.
And the community of Campbell River showing up to say goodbye to the restaurant and share their memories of growing up eating there. And it's just a very sweet and moving short. It's only 15 minutes long, and it's free to watch right now. It's up on CBC Gem or it's up on YouTube. And yeah, if you want like just a very touching moment, I would highly recommend watching it, because it makes you think about it's essentially about how to make a graceful exit after having like served a community for 39 years. And it's a very beautiful short film.
It's super beautiful. I loved it a lot. I'm going to recommend, this is something that AG has recommended before, but I finally watched it all and I really loved it. Only Murders in the Building.
Yes.
It's the Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez TV series about true crime podcast obsessed folks who decide to start their own podcast based on an investigation into a death in their own apartment building. It's in New York. It's really fun and wild and weird and great. And
the set decoration is amazing.
Phenomenal. Beautiful.
I love seeing all those apartments. Oh,
all those apartments are great. Selena Gomez is
her wardrobe. Amazing.
Also just fantastic though in it. Like she's got a real deadpan mix of like Winona Ryder, Aubrey Plaza, and Christina Ricci. It's like just like the perfect combination.
She's so great.
But also just a real, like there's also like a bit of tenderness to her there, and I really loved it. And they're doing a season 2. And season 2,
Yay.
Shirley MacLaine is joining the cast.
Oh,
and
wow.
Nice.
Okay.
I can't wait. My God, what a powerhouse to add to the cast. So, I loved it. And Lisa, have you ever watched it?
I watched the first 2 episodes, but I got to get back there.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about it in the future as well.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Maybe. Before season 2 drops and sometime in the fall, I think. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You could rate and review us 5 stars.
5
on
stars
iTunes.
always. And thanks to Andrea Gin, our producer and co-host and post-apocalyptic dream gal.
Wow, I've never been called that before.
Well, it's a
Amazing.
first. It's a first.
I mean, you know how to can stuff, dude. Like,
Yeah, you do. You will be there in the post-apocalyptic world producing podcasts.
Yeah,
It'll be an
I'll build a
important
ham
show.
radio for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.